welcome to the Laughing Monkey Music Show. Today, we have a special guest from Wishbone Ash. We have Andy. How are you?
I'm well, thank you, Sean. Yeah, happy to be here.
I'm glad you could be here. I want to say, first off, the fact that you've been in a band as long as you have is amazing and awesome. It's a testament to you. First off, so let's just say congrats because let's say the Rolling Stones, everyone's like flipping out about it, but the truth is, you've been in the band probably as long. So rocking is hard. So good for
Sorry, I
you.
missed that last bit. I've been here
So
once.
you've been rocking as hard as everybody else. You're out there still doing it. So I
Oh
mean,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it's some form of success to just to survive in the music
yeah.
business. That's one thing I've come to realize that I must have really great innate survival skills because I've actually made surviving a real
A skill set.
yeah, very much so. But yeah, well, thank you. That's all I can say is I don't really understand it. It's just something I do. I am somebody that sticks with a plan.
Mhm.
We had a very good plan when we started the band, and it's just worked for me, and I still enjoy it. That's all I can tell you.
Well, I think sometimes there's like a little bit of luck, but it also deals with perseverance and talent. And if you have those two, usually you can outride luck if you're working hard enough. And I think you're more perseverance and talent because you're one of the bands where I can go through the full history, even like not the classic couple early albums, the 80s and 90s. Like you've consistently stayed true to who you are and put out solid songs. Like your songwriting hasn't gotten, changed or whatever. You've stayed a consistently strong songwriter and always kind of grown and added new things into it over the years.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that involves a bit of experimentation, and we've gone off the beaten path, a little bit, and
But
but
you're an artist.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So being artistic, you have that license. But I think what we did is we mined a very productive scene when we formed the band. We laid down the blueprint for what we were going to do, and it was a path that was uniquely ours. There were a few other bands that were dabbling with the twin. I'm talking about the twin lead guitar thing.
Yes.
And then one of the fortuitous things, of course, Sean, is the fact that electric guitar seems as popular as ever right now. I mean, it's certainly the iconic instrument of rock, and
It is.
you've got younger bands of your generation coming up. Guns N' Roses. They're still strutting their stuff on stage with electric guitars. I'm quite grateful for that because it's like all I know how to do. So the electric guitar and rock has been very, very good to me.
What's funny is I think you're most experimental, and I want to say people that aren't aware. One of the things I love to do with other fans, if you're not aware, you guys really have to deep dive into this. Is a band. Roll up your sleeves. You're not going to just hear greatest hits and get it. Each album is like a meal. You can't eat everything at once.
It's a great way of putting
You
it.
know,
Yeah.
because and this is some of my favorite bands like you are like this because you just and you can listen to an album. If sometimes you want a cheeseburger, sometimes you want a pizza, sometimes you want for dinner. Each album is a different meal. So when I listen to rock critics, and it's such a weird phrase, and they love you guys and they say certain things, they're like, this was a strong album, this was a weak album. To me, it's just a different flavor, it's a different meal. And you just might not be in the mood for it. I mean, sometimes the band can do some stingers, let's be honest. But that's not what I feel about you guys. I just think they're like literally just different things. And early on, one of the things you guys did that I love personally is not only twin guitar, but the harmonies that like a band like Crosby, and Nash later on got popular for. You guys had some freaking unbelievable early harmonies with great guitar.
Yeah,
Those
that
together, I don't think I saw. I did not. I don't think
no,
those were combined.
I think that's very true. I think that's often been overlooked both by ourselves and by the audience. But all
Oh,
of that very much played into the melodic structure of the band's music.
you have
And,
beautiful harmonies.
yeah,
Oh,
and I think you've hit on something there with that meal analogy because all the bands from the early '70s that were making albums, they were recordings of a moment in time, and they
mhm.
were designed to be listened to as an entity, quiet, no distractions, or sometimes with, at a party or something like that. But there weren't the distractions. That's an important word around that there are now. So we didn't have gaming, we didn't have Netflix, we didn't have a lot of other kinds of media. And so, when an album came out, it was a complete package. The artwork was carefully thought about, the direction of the music, the format of the songs, the two-sided entity of an LP, a long playing record. And so, describing it as a meal, that's exactly as the way we would intend it to be. It was something that would nourish you. You could pull it down off the shelf from time to time, revisit it, discover things about it that you didn't know that we put into it. So a lot of love, a lot of nurturing, a lot of heart and soul. And I think music these days is viewed somewhat differently. It's often viewed as a commodity. It's often viewed as something that services other mediums, like, for example, film or gaming.
Game. I think games has been a big thing now lately.
It
It's very
is
It's very disposable. Like I thought it was disposable back in the like 80s and 90s. Not even close now. They
totally.
time it. They time the. They like it has a certain frequencies and beats at a certain time now. Like if you do
Yes.
it, like it's got. I know you don't talk about behind the scenes and people aren't aware. For certain singles to get out on stations or whatever it is anymore, it's got to have a certain format now, like
Yes.
sonically,
Yes.
and
That's exactly
that
right.
takes away from being an artist, and it does support the inherent beast of AI in music.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think AI can be fun for some things. It should not be in music. There's just
that's
no
what's
need for
coming.
music.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, music has a very short shelf life now. It's seen as serving a purpose rather than, yeah, artistry that can be returned to over and over again. I mean, I still listen to a lot of the music from the 60s and the 70s, and I just
That's all my records. That's all my records from back
yeah,
then. You,
I
you
find
sit
that
down and you look at it.
I find they have a lot of substance and a lot of warmth, and they just feel lovely. I just love that period of music. But yeah, so it's a strange point that we find ourselves now, because you hinted at it. We're on the cusp now of AI,
Yeah.
which is going to make things even weirder. So I don't think there's any less talent about. I don't think there's any less artistry. I just think that the means of commercializing it and the means of delivering it, all becoming a bit more esoteric. It's all becoming
Yeah.
a bit more fragmented. The rock culture was, that was the culture in the 70s. Everybody, there was a point in time, like early 70s, when things turned from movies to and rock stars became very powerful. It was a powerful thing throughout the whole of society. It's not like that now. In some ways, that's a good thing, but in other ways, it's you knew where you stood back then. So now
Well,
it's a little more niche.
it's hard because, but then like I'm sure you have horror stories about like record label stories because you get a label out and you get the album out, they don't promote it, they keep your album on the shelf. So nowadays you can put it yourself and produce it, but there's
Yes.
a lot of it out there. So there's pluses. I mean, I got excited. I'm like, all right, so people that don't have all this access and are talented people can use a social service earlier on, like a platform, and put it out there and have success. But then what happened was a few people did it, and now you see pictures of everybody has a picture of their guitar and they're walking on the beach, but there's no music. They're not going to fill a club with this. They have a million followers from some idiotic thing, but just no actual
Well,
music.
well, yeah. There's something about handmade music, and there's something about going out there and hone it. It's like whittling a stick. You go through the whole thing of putting your music out in clubs, and you go through the grind and the travel, and all of that is invested in the final product, if we want to call it.
Mhm.
And I think that kind of shows in the musicianship and in the type of music that's produced, because when there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that goes into something, sure, there are a lot of naturally talented people that come up with a spark of an idea and they put it out on YouTube, and all of a sudden they're doing something that they might be doing it in their bedrooms, but it's pretty damn good. But it's not a communal experience in a way that I relate to,
Right.
in terms of like buying a van, getting in an old van, rehearsing in damp basements, getting out on the road, grafting, grinding. That's the rock thing. So that's all I know about, and to me, it has meaning. That's all I can tell
Well,
you.
no. Well, that's the thing. The thing is, like, there's so many levels that there's like relationships. It's almost like having practice. It's like having practice marriages being in a band. You're going this, you're fighting, you're this, you're that. There's finances you deal with. Like, there's so many different levels of life you go through. There's the
That's right.
ceremony of it. I mean,
Oh,
there's so
that's
many
right.
experiences. Doing cover songs is like going to like rock and roll college because you're learning how to songwrite if you're doing the right bands. If you're practicing the Beatles, you're practicing so and so bands. I'm talking generationally for you. You're learning these bands. You're practicing your songwriting skills.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And then so I mean, there are different levels of learning when you just think I'm in a rock band in the '70s. There's so much going on there that's
Well,
being
yeah.
missing now
I
by
mean,
sitting in front of YouTube and
I
just
mean, I always say it's like, people go, what's your education? I go, the university of life, and rock is, for me, it's just been a university because, I mean, I've learned so much from it. I've learned about
yeah.
politics, I've learned about travel, I've learned about managing people, human relationships, how to bring a family up within that, under the aegis of being in a rock band. I mean,
But you're just a traveling businessman. Traveling businessman,
yeah,
keep your
you
business
learn.
going, have to raise a family. They're
Yeah,
different.
you learn you learn how to be a small businessman. You learn a lot, and so music has given me just an incredible number of gifts. I can't even begin to tell you. Yeah.
I agree. I think it's always important to say that because I think people have such a weird vision of it. I'm like, there's so much you get from it, especially back then.
Oh,
It's a
totally.
lot of hard work, and it's like being an independent businessman. It's like being a traveling,
Well, it's not
businessman.
like you are. You actually
Well,
are.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, so
I was
I
gonna
mean,
say, but much cooler. But much cooler because you have a guitar. That was
yeah,
gonna be my addendum to that.
it is pretty cool. I mean, a lot of people, if they go sort of a little bit more naive, they'll go like, "So when are you going out to play again?" And don't you get bored with this? And it's like they just think it's like, like you mentioned talent earlier. I mean, obviously talent is a big part of it, but there is a lot of talent around in the world. There's so many
Right.
talented people. You can go to street corner and see some kid on a skateboard, or
Yep.
you can see him doing phenomenal things. But it's the marketing and the organizing of it that obviously you know, is a big part of it. So yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. And I look at it that way. It's all embracing for me. It's a lifestyle. We have a community. Don't forget the audience. I mean,
Oh,
the audience is. I mean, it's not just when we go on tour. It's not just us going on tour. It's the audience coming along and supporting us, the community, the feedback. Now we have social media, so it's very cool. It's a window on the world for me. Totally, I could be anywhere
and I
doing.
think no, in the rock community, I think overall though, as I do the show, I talk about different genres. I grew up in the rock community is the strongest community of acceptativeness of fans and
It's
fans, and
great.
but like it's fantastic. I think people miss on that, and like I'm big on vinyl. I've always have been. I grew up on it. The Beatles was my first album. It's
Yeah,
a ceremony with it. But I
yeah.
want to say one of the things with me is, and being a longtime fan of you, um, is your songwriting. I want to talk about like now the difference, but I don't think people really talked a lot about early on your influence in some of the other well the iconic albums. You know, I don't think you kind of got enough props. I mean, I know now you're the main focus because last man standing, but but
Well,
but
well,
but
I think.
seriously, you were one of the biggest components in my eyes.
Well, thank you. I think that the band kind of went to great lengths to not be pigeonholed in terms of our sound and our style. And also, I think that the generation of rock bands that came on after us were somewhat influenced by us. I'm thinking
Oh
of
God, yeah,
I'm thinking of Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Thin Lizzy. Those bands, they took something that we were working with, and they honed it. They brought it into a sharp focus, and they had hit singles with it. So we did not have hit singles. We got played on the radio, but we weren't as overtly known as those bands. So that played into the longevity of the band, but it also played into the fact that we were freer to be more eclectic with our ideas and our style. But that conversely fooled a lot of people because we weren't in an easily accessible bracket.
right.
When you have a bunch of music and you have a very definitive style, like say take a band like AC/DC, or Angus Young at the front there, schoolboy uniform, doing the duck walk. You hear that beat, you see that image. It's a no brainer. So we were a little bit more reticent to go down that road, although we had our signs and our signature image things, but we kept it open, and
Right.
and I think that is why we've hung around for so long, because we're always a work in progress.
I've heard like let's go back and like if I have somebody on the show, especially someone like you, I've been a big fan for a long time, and I really enjoyed the music. And you're welcome. And so to me, I'll go back and listen to new stuff and back and digest and kind of play around and listen to, do an extra splurge on it, music I'm already familiar with, but hear it all at once at different times. So you kind of get like a layered version. I'm listening to it. I'm like, geez, I can't believe there's got to be a lot of Southern rock influenced by some of those early albums too. And that's something I don't usually hear. I hear some, I'm like, God, that sounds like Skinner, or it sounds like, I don't want to say any names to get people all worked up on the internet, but you know what I'm talking about. There's some riffs in there. I'm like, God, that sounds like so and so band.
I want to tell you something.
Please, please,
That's a
because this
great,
is never talked about.
that's a great thing that you've touched on there, because I think the influence was two way. Like these delineations that we've just been talking about weren't as pervasive as they are now. So you didn't really have a thing called Southern rock when we started touring in the South,
Mm-hmm.
United States.
What year was that?
Yeah, talking 1970, 71.
Yep.
I mean,
okay. First album.
I mean, we were going down there. In fact, we were signed with an agency that almost exclusively put us out in the South. And the weird thing about that was we would travel around with these guitars, and a lot of we had two brothers. Well, they thought were brothers in the band. There were two guys in the band with Turner, and of course that's a very Southern thing, like the Allman Brothers and the brothers and that. As hey brother,
the Turner brothers.
We never corrected them, But the thing was, some people down there thought that we were Southern because we had a blues influence to our music as well as English folk. That they couldn't quite figure out, but they knew that we were pickers, But conversely, we were also traveling through the South, and we were listening to people down there too. So the influences were two way, and we were even put on bills with the Allman Brothers, and I can tell you for a fact that bands like Leonard Skinner were hugely influenced by Wishbone Ash. As we were listening to them, they came up a little bit later than us, and but I mean, we were just both massively immersed in guitar playing and riffing and doing all this stuff and buying the vintage guitars. But it was a two-way street in many ways. But I think that a lot of the Southern bands, they were listening to British bands like Wishbone Ash and getting something from it, and trying to expand their horizons, because they were very firmly rooted in their country rock roots,
Right.
But it wasn't called Southern rock back then. It was really, there wasn't. I mean, when we went down there, we were the long hairs. They were all that short hair. I mean, it was only like the long hair thing in the South came along a lot later. They were pretty. That was not a thing you did then. In fact, you'd be hustled off the streets. I mean, we had run-ins with cops and stuff just because of the hair.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's fucking limeys. What do you do coming over here? Get off the floor. We had that big time. Yeah. I mean, but then of course, we started doing these big tours with we were on the road with Alice Cooper and bands like that. And then all of a sudden the Southern audiences, everyone had long hair, everyone was smoking weed. And it was like the cops just stood by and they didn't know what to do. In many cases, they just joined in. So there was a very distinctive point in time. People don't remember that, or they forget that it was a very big dichotomy between. English band. We were a novelty. It's weird. That's all I can tell you.
Well, I mean, anything in a different land is different. Like your English accent over here, I'm sure your whole life being over in America is the coolest thing ever because you got the English accent. Like it's very special.
Let's put it this way: it didn't hurt.
That's right. So, but on a serious note, I mean, to me, I probably heard it more on his second album than obviously the third, but even the fourth and the live album, it's the first classic big live album. When I heard it, I'm like, those harmonies, those double guitars, and the intricacies of it with the blues influence. I'm like, man, I could totally hear where that just totally got picked up into Southern rock because there was something before that.
Well, you mentioned the live album. That was a big thing right there. In fact, the first live album we did, Live Dates, actually was, I think, the biggest seller of all for us. And I think the reason a lot of Southern bands and Southern audiences loved Wishbone Ash was the fact that we were real. It
Yep.
wasn't some manufactured North American or English pop thing. It was
Right.
real guys, working class kids, just like they were, that got out, bought an electric guitar. I mean, in some case, I mean, I made my first guitar. So it was a real handmade music thing about it that I think those audiences appreciated. They could see that we were on FM radio, which back in the day was a very big underground.
Hmm.
It was an underground thing, and I think that they saw it as being real music. It was something separate from the music industry, although we later became amalgamated into the industry because these younger bands also had young managers that eventually ended up changing the music industry. Which when I joined it was all suits and Timpan Alley and lawyers and but all this stuff, I went through all these revolutions, if you want to call them that. But I think those audiences, particularly in the South, they saw that. They saw it as a real band. And they were like, they couldn't get enough of it. It was great. And yeah, as you say, the English accents didn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt. But no, there's a great point. I always forget that. I mean, and if people aren't aware, and hopefully we're talking to a lot of younger fans, is that AM used to be the big thing and not FM.
That
You
was
don't think about
60s.
that.
That was pop. Yes.
Right. And that was real pop. That was the
Yeah.
original pop, you
Yes.
know. And then it eventually flipped over to the where it then became like half and half,
Came
it
rock.
came right. But there was a time, and so it wasn't the outlaw. Do you also think, this is I don't know, back then, who was touring in the 70s, back when you were doing it, like in the South? Were there a lot of working bands doing it, or was it not many rock bands early on when you were doing it in the South?
Well, I mean, sorry, so someone just came in
It's
the room.
okay.
No, it's interesting because when we came over, Herman's Hermits was on the road.
Hmm.
Uh, Three Dog Night, we were on bills with him. We even did a gig with the Monkees. I mean, so that gives you an idea of how that transition. And then I think the first rock band we played with was Steppenwolf. I thought, finally.
That
There's
makes sense. The
some,
Monkees is like they don't know how they're going to package you, do they?
well, the thing was they didn't know how to handle rock. I mean,
Right.
the Who were on the road in the '60s with these kind of bands, and
Yeah.
playing these pop shows where you'd go on stage, there'd be like half a dozen bands, you play 10 minutes each. Um, yeah, it was an interesting time. But yeah, then it became more. It became the sound systems got better in the venues. The promoters became more. You have venues like the Fillmore West and the Fillmore East, and
Hmm.
and the kids started to take over the control of what the bands that they wanted to see, not what was packaged and presented to them. And that was when, I mean, I was so fortunate to ride in on that wave and be on the cusp of that. It was fantastic. Yeah, it was amazing.
You've seen everything. You've really gone through every version of the record labels, of radio,
I
all
mean,
the
we started
games.
on 4-track when our first album was 4-track recording. The second, the third album it went up from 8-track to 16-track. So I've seen all the changes on the technical side of it.
So I went to school for recording, so I'm going to ask you this actually for analog recording too, college. How
Great.
much bumping down were you doing from your 4-track for your band with all the guitars and the harmonies?
Not too much actually. It was really where it jumped to 16-track, where we suddenly we realized we could double track things.
Right.
But we weren't no, we weren't doing too much of it. I mean, those albums were done. The core thing was done live in the studio,
Yeah.
you dubbed on the vocals. You know, I mean the
Well, but
drums.
not a lot of bands did that though. But even back then, a lot of bands still didn't do that. I mean, don't forget, we were still doing, you know, the Beach Boys were already starting to get their hands and stuff. You know what I'm saying? So there was already layering of stuff. The Phil Spector. So
Yeah,
coming in and being a band that people aren't aware. So like basically 4 tracks, we use 4 tracks, and if they want to add on more, they have to put them all together and then bump them down and add the layer. And then you're looking at losing, the sonic sounds and the resonance of it. So there's a whole other thing there. And what you're doing by playing live in a studio is like, people don't know it's live on the floor you guys are playing. And it's a lot more simple, but it sounds really warm
it
and it's
sounds
a great
incredible.
feel.
I tell
It
you
had the
why.
best feel ever.
The reason was those engineers were really well trained and they were fantastic. The other thing is that I mean, the quality of the equipment there, it really, it's like the electric guitars. I mean, you pick up these guitars from the 1950s, they still haven't really improved on them very much. And with all the digital technology and everything, it's still hard to beat the sound of a 2-inch tape and a Neumann microphone. It's phenomenal technology that
Yeah.
was available in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. So um, not too much has changed. I mean, okay, we've got digital, we've got synths, we can do amazing things with Pro Tools and all the rest of it. But it's still very cool to record in that way.
I still find myself playing either my baby little orange amp, like a little mini amp my kid got me for Christmas, or my I have a Vox, and I always want to play with the pedals and stuff. It goes to that tone, but I always find myself just going back straight to like a Vox and an old guitar. I mean,
Yeah,
it was done right. Like, how can you
it
not do it
works. It
right?
works. It works. And that's where we're coming from. That's where we're coming from. I mean, it's vintage guitars, it's twin lead guitars, it's harmonies on the guitars, and yeah, we're all about that tone.
Did
So
you
I
change?
think that's what people like about the band.
And you stay that, and you stay strong. Your songs haven't changed. I'm not just shining you on either. Your songs will hold up against and
Thank you.
whether it's a big sounding album or not, like big selling, it doesn't matter because it's the same quality. If somebody didn't know you, and I played the album side by side,
Yeah.
which they would say in Rhode Island, side by each. If they didn't know your history, they'd be like, they wouldn't know the difference of like which one was the hit
I
album.
appreciate that. That's good to hear. That's great. It means we tapped into a good thing and we stuck with it.
Yeah, I mean, but the songs are so grown, they're so interesting. I still enjoy the albums, and that's like there's probably a handful of bands, maybe two handfuls that I can still go back that I've always loved. I know I'm going to get a good, solid album from. It's going to be a good, solid show. Like you just know it's going to be good. It's not about making mistakes or changing because that's what I love about an artist. I want to hear mistakes. I want, you know what I mean? I like
Sure,
that. It's
sure,
breathing.
sure, sure.
I
Yeah.
want,
Yeah, I mean, I
you know,
can listen to the solos I did on records and think, oh, I could have refined that a little bit better. I could have edited it, but it came out at the time, and the warts and all, we say, it's good. It's all good.
when you were writing early on though, in the like when you guys were like it was the classic, the bigger albums, the bigger hits when originally first came out, because all those albums early on had a lot of different styles each album. Were each of you coming in writing separately with different influences for each album, or were you each writing all together? Because it's such an interesting bouncing from sound to sound those first couple albums.
We were a band, and we still stress the band. The band trumps everything. The band is the reason for being. So
Right.
when we wrote, we produced the music and wrote it as a band. But obviously, different people from time to time will come in with ideas. They might come in with a verse or a chorus, lyrically speaking. They might come up with a riff. We did a lot of jamming
Okay.
early on. It's always been the go-to place for making music is where you get a band in a grungy basement and you just start jamming. I mean, that is a great way to write music, and it's a
Right.
great way to hone your sound, because you learn how to play together, and you learn different people's strengths and weaknesses, when to back off, when to let somebody go to the fore. And so I think that was essentially of course, you had to have initial ideas, sparks of, we'd have a lot of discussions, philosophy, and we were reading a lot, and certainly all those things inputted into the lyrics that we were coming up with
Right.
at the time. And then as we started to tour, we gained a lot of adult experiences, should we put it that way. You learn about relationships. You wrote about the things you saw. You got a little bit political.
Mhm.
All of that came into the songwriting, but it was always something that was brought to the table to the band, and then the band would chew on it all,
Right.
and spew it out into a finished song. That's always
Okay.
been, and it's still the way it is in the band today.
Well, thank you for that. I think one of the things that I do, and I always avoid like getting like the dirt in any band. To me, it's like because we're talking about a certain time period of music. Like you like say before you talk about your first those 5 6 albums would be like Van Halen. You know exactly what's going on in those albums with the band, whatever, and the consistency, like where they what they were. And then like Black Sabbath, like the first 3 or 4 of the albums were like solid, and then towards the end you could tell which albums he was doing the most coke. I mean, it's no secret like which songs. and you can tell like how it was led
Oh yeah.
when it turns to this. So there's a historical precedent set on some of these early setting albums that were the blueprint. So with your set of albums, it was always interesting to me because I was like not looking for like a star player or a main songwriter. I'm like to have that strong of a weave of a sound for each album. Was the band just creating it and just on this incredible flow where the creativity was just going as a flow?
Yeah.
Or was
I
somebody coming
think
in and saying, "Hey guys, have you heard this yet?" And everyone goes, "Oh," and then you
right,
jump into
right,
it.
right.
You know what I'm
I
saying?
think
It was
I
just
think
so
that
different.
having been the one constant member in the band, a lot of that direction and a lot of that integrity is something that I've been a guardian of, if you like, or even in some cases an initiator of. But you can certainly, in our career, you can hear when a new member comes in and maybe that person's tried to take it in a certain area that they feel we should perhaps go into.
Mhm.
And we go, yeah, okay, let's try that. And we all go along and we trundle down that road. And then the next album we come back to the core thing, which
Yep.
is kind of probably, me producing it to some degree. Um, I've always been a quiet force in the band in terms of like I'm very open to the directions that people want to go in because it's fun. I mean, it's great to go down. Somebody says, "Oh, let's do a song that's a little bit more Stevie Ray Vaughan, or let's
Yeah.
something let's dabble that something that maybe hints at Yes or something like that." I'll be, "Oh, that's interesting." So, because for me, it's like a music lesson. I learn something,
Right.
but it always comes back to the core roots, which is folk, rock, blues core of the band with a little bit of a progressive edge too.
Mhm.
It always comes back to that. And that is maybe because no one's figured out a way to kick me out of the band. I don't know. But, um,
You
it's,
better watch out. You might have a letter from yourself in the morning.
I might do.
You're
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
you're you're
yeah.
out. Signed Andy. Hey.
You need to rethink this. Yeah. Um, but I don't know why it is, but that's what it is, and yeah, I see myself as being a quiet guardian of that. I produce it. I'm the elder statesman within the band now, and I've been through all these changes as you mentioned earlier. So maybe partially it's down to me, but I mean certainly we've really benefited from these different players coming in the band, these different writers and we've just kept rolling the ball forward. So it's just been an amazing ride, and that's what I can tell
That
you.
makes sense. That makes sense. And thank you for that. I think to me, and I think what happens is people be like, "Oh, so not just you, like so and so band, this person led it, or this." I have a few things to say about that. Number one, there's been bands that have come out and they have a hit album, and then the second album, everyone in the band goes, "Oh, this person wasn't leader or the songwriter." Everybody wants in now for songwriting. Everybody puts it in. There's no one saying no, whatever. That next album sounds like everything in it tanks. What changed? Okay, so first off, you need somebody to lead the ship. You need a captain. But you do need a crew if it's a big boat. They all have to work together, and
That's very
the
that's
crew
right.
sometimes saves the boat. But you still need somebody to make
Yes.
the decisions. Even if they make the wrong decisions, you need somebody to drill on.
Well, in the studio, that person is often the producer, outside of the band. Or if you took it in business terms, it's like having a really good manager. And we had both of those elements. That's like the fifth and sixth members of the band. We had that in the
Right.
initial stages of the band. When we decided to produce things ourselves on the fourth album, it tanked somewhat because then um, there was infighting and you know so
But you did it as a community, right? But you did it all as a community. You didn't have one leader who would say no, whether it be you or anybody else. You
yeah
tried to be a team.
was subsequent to that I realized what you were saying, and I think in later years I realized that I was probably the best equipped to keep good tabs on the direction of the band and
Mhm.
good tabs on the business side of things. I mean, I realized after a period of time that a lot of these managers in later years that we were getting and agents weren't always acting in our best on our best on our behalf. They were
Yeah.
really feathering their own nest, and so this goes on in bands. When you mature,
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. When I joined this band, I was 19. So, by the time I became 35 or 40, I'd learned a few things and I'd seen if I'd been ripped off a few times.
Yeah.
The band had been ripped off, and we'd also lost our direction a couple of times because we decided we should be the producers and we didn't have a producer. So you learn all these things, and then eventually you sort of you formulate a direction, you become mature, and you learn how to manage the thing, and that's happened in many bands. That's a natural process.
Right. I think it's just important for me because as obviously being a fan over the years, and I've seen things in press, different things, or people making comments and stuff. I'm like, people don't see the full picture of it, and it's just a few things I want to flesh out with you of what I think and why things are, and add a new viewpoint to people that maybe a little more closed minded on that, or you know what I'm saying? That just there's much more.
Well, I think
There's much more to it than that is. You can be a leader. You can be the best open minded leader. The Foo Fighters is Dave Grohl's band, but he listens to everybody. But at the end of the day,
totally,
it's going to be that.
no, totally. I mean, it's like democracies are really, really hard things. You need mentors and people within democracies to guide it and just to keep the whole thing, keep all the plates in it spinning in the air. And that takes a lot of listening, as you just mentioned. It takes a lot of pragmatism. It takes wisdom, and it takes experience
and humility for your mistakes to move
humility,
on.
big time. I mean, I've had to just eat my words and be quiet and shut up many, many times, and that takes years. It takes actually years to develop that, and so I think that's what I bring to the table, personally speaking. But yeah, I mean,
and you're a killer guitar player, a good singer, a great singer.
Thank
so
you, man.
I just want to throw there
the
too.
guitar,
Man, you just rock. Oh, as a guitar
yeah,
player, I got to tell you, man. Oh,
thank you.
your harmonies. Oh,
well, there are, there are that's the thing that's so often overlooked as well, because the musicians in this band are great.
oh yeah.
We play well as a band, and but yeah, there's many aspects to it. So I think if you really delve into, I mean, people say to me things like, yeah, Keith Richards, I mean, he's really not all there, right? And you go, are you kidding me? Are you shitting me? This guy has been at the helm with Mick Jagger of a band that's in excess of 50, 60, whatever it is, years. And sure, his public persona is of this degraded, decadent dude, but he sits in his mansion reading esoteric books. He's one of the greatest songwriters. He can write better songs on a 5-string guitar than you.
I was going to say, he doesn't even give you 6 strings. He writes better songs than everybody else.
I mean, this is like, do not underestimate people like that, because, and the thing is, it's very easy for people who just casually look into the rock world and go, oh, that they don't understand what goes into it. But they shouldn't understand totally, because that's the art of what we do, and you don't want to. It's a bit of a mysterious world, These days, it's more open.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that's the whole point. It's like at this point, because I went to school for it, and like seeing what the others, like having a leg on both sides, like being aware of what you guys go through, and having done a little of everything there, and knowing what everyone else sees and how they see things are, the champagne and caviar thing. I feel it's important to pull back the curtains a little bit to show that these are hardworking, in your case, a hardworking bloke, but hardworking people or whatever, mates, whatever country we're watching.
Well, that's the world we're in now. We're
right,
in that
but you're working hard. You go to a concert ticket. To me, it's like I'm paying for the driving your truck, for your insurance, for the pressing of your shirts. That's what the ticket's for. The gift is the band performing at night. That's like the last thing on the list. Everything else being paid for in the ticket is for all the other hoopla to get the show on the road.
Sure. I mean, and back in the day, that mystique and that mystery, they were unknown quantities, what went on behind the scenes,
Right.
Now we're in the age of social media. Everyone's got a video phone, and if something happens on the streets, there's about 20 phones come out and capture it. So the intrigue now is to see all those machinations that go behind the scenes, and to somehow learn from it. I mean, I often think that some of the shit that's going down in politics in this country now. I mean, it's like there's so much manipulation of this information, and so much fakery, and false lies and stuff, but I mean, I think this is really the phase that we're going through in learning as children how to handle social media and to handle
Right.
this bigger, this greater glimpse behind the scenes and see how music, for example, is made, or politics are constructed, or democracies are working, and the bad actors are manipulating it in a pretty evil way.
Right.
But, you just hope that the good guys are out there and learning how to use it for good, for the greater good. And yeah, it's like the same thing in the music game. I mean, I often say when I'm being interviewed, I wish some of the politicians could travel around the world and see the world
But
the way we. I mean, I think I've visited in the last 6 months something like 10, 12 different countries.
there should be like a year or two of world travel you should do before you
it,
qualify
it,
for higher
it
government
just
positions. You
it
know what I mean?
makes well, I mean, we do have a lot of input and a lot of. I mean, it makes me laugh. I fall off my stool when these politicians are going on about the radical left and these we're going to become communists. They don't even know
I
what
know.
communist is, for Christ's sake.
I know. It's
It's
worse. I'm
like
like,
they've
that's not
never been.
communism.
They've never been to a communist country. They haven't.
No.
They haven't. They have some cockeyed idea of what um, communism is or socialism is. It just cracks me up. They're laughable. They're like children. And so anyway, I'm digressing, but you know,
But
uh,
there's a correlation between the two. There is a
there
correlation.
is, there
There
is.
is, and I think one of the things besides giving I try opening the bands because I want people to realize that an artist as talented as you is out there. Besides going to check out the albums, and I'd probably say they have to pick one album, maybe to your first live album to get their feet wet for the drive
I
home.
think that would be a great
Then
place to start. The Live Dates album. Then we did Live Dates 2.
probably
But
two,
I
and
think that the crown in the jewel in the crown, should I say, is Argus.
it is. But I was going to say that maybe not always to be the gateway drug. Let them go to that one differently
Yeah,
because I think there's a lot of other
no, I
gems
think
in
you're
there.
right. I think you're right. The live album, because we're moving into the second phase of the band by then.
Yes.
The band's opening up, so I think you're right. The live album is a great place to start.
And you had the confidence and success to feel a little more creatively, get a little more muscle in it, and you're
Absolutely.
feeling that.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what I feel on the album. I mean, to me,
Nice.
Argus is a great album. You can't disagree with it. It's
Yeah.
masterpiece. But I'm also not about taking away from all the other albums, the kids, because they each have their own things. Even someone else's least favorite is still going to hold really good
Yeah.
compared to it because what you put into it, you don't go in there. No one's gone in there and put up. I think this is the crappiest album I've ever done. Like I've yet to hear that interview with somebody on an album tour. I'd actually give them props if they did that because I'm like, thank you for being honest. but that would be kind of funny. But with a band like you, the kind of still does it. I do want to say at this point, and I love the fact you're still about recording music and playing music and being very live and writing songs because I think it's in you. You just kind of need to do it. And I want to talk about what you have coming up now and touring and the song listing and playing shows live. I think this is a great tie-in to how you're doing songs for your live shows.
How do we choose them? Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I keep going about social media. We're getting a lot of feedback now from people on social media. There can be like yourself. You maybe came to the band later. You weren't part of that initial wave of our audience. So
In fairness, I was 4 years old. In fairness, so
yeah, no, I mean, it's amazing, and I totally love it.
my parents weren't that cool.
I love the fact that you're impacted by the music. But I mean, everybody's got their own favorite period with a band that's been going 50 plus years. So we get that feedback from the audience, and so we try and bear that in mind when we construct the live shows. And play. We obviously play to our strengths, but we're playing as much of a variety to make up a good show, as we can.
Do you get a lot of oddball requests? Like to me, as an artist, that'd be fun. Like you have an album like you did like in the '80s or something, a song you liked and the rest of the band hated or something. Or you're like, I didn't really like it then, but now 20 years to go back and you play it, you're like, oh, this is kind of fun. And everyone's like, what the hell song is that? I don't remember that album. Do you have some of those creeping in
Oh, I
sometimes?
do. I've even I might have a playlist playing in the car when I'm driving around, and a song will come on, and I'll go, I like that guy's voice. So what is that? And I'll turn to my wife. She go, well, that's you. And it's that alien now because it's so many decades ago that I might not have listened to that song for 30 years, and it'll come on a playlist of ours, perhaps some researching songs,
Yeah.
to play, and I'll be in the car and I'll be, oh my god, I never liked that song, but you know what? I quite like it now.
And that's the thing. I mean, it's a treasure. And with music, and first I would tell people it does happen. Like you forget you perform and do things. Like I've done like 500 interviews at this point in my life in a short period. I forget things, and people are like, how could you forget that big monumental thing? I'm like, literally, you're a human being. You are
Yeah.
bound to forget. You are bound to forget almost everything,
Yes.
unless it's your kid eating
Yes.
cereal in front of you.
And
Literally,
don't forget that sometimes with these recordings, you record them, you put a lot of work into that recording, and then you walk away from it. Then you hand it to the audience, and then the audience gets that record or that CD or that whatever it is, the medium they're listening on, and they listen to that song over and over and over and over and over again, and it becomes a part of them. And you've moved on to the next song. You're writing something else for the next album, so you have to be mindful of that. And they're coming at it from a different angle because they. And I was the same. I am the same with bands' music. There are certain songs by other bands that I just go to over and over again. They're just part of my listening
right,
personality. But yeah, as an artist, it's sometimes difficult to you've got to work on that, and that's
right.
that's where the craft comes in, and that's where being a performer comes in. You're not being a performer and going out and taking it to the streets and going and doing the tours. You are in a way you're paying homage to yourself and you're revisiting your work. So that's a kind of and that's another part of the process. In order
It's
to be if you don't want to be a performer and you just want to be a pure artist, somebody who just locks themselves away in a studio or a garret, and they put the music out there. I mean, I think that's probably the case for painters. Actually, they paint something and it's a very solitary thing. They put
yeah.
it out. They can't understand. So this thing becomes worth $1 million or whatever. You know.
Can you imagine an audience watching somebody just paint a painting, like like a Bob Ross situation with a whole
Well, yeah.
auditorium?
I mean, they're trying
That
to
would be
turn,
bananas.
yeah, they're now trying to turn art painting into an experience. Like the Van Gogh experience or
Oh,
whatever.
you're
So,
right. Yeah.
yeah, that's a very interesting concept. Yeah,
I would say like I want to say two things on this. So like one is a like falling back in love with your music is like I'm a huge music nerd my whole life, and like about 5 years ago, before the big thing with COVID, with the advent of YouTube, I'm like I can start learning guitar. So I start. My kids are playing music. I went to college for music, sang in bands, but I never played guitar because I thought I just couldn't get it. I don't have the patience, the time.
sure.
But then with YouTube, there's other players out there that I could practice at my own time, affordability if I couldn't afford a teacher at the time.
That's pretty cool.
And that was cool because that's really what the beauty of technology should be. Now, I do want to say to this though, and then I'd see somebody be like 8 years old and they would shred. I don't want to take my guitar and just throw out the window because I'm like, oh, I'll never be that good. But on a serious note, I would play a song that like a song from like the Eagles that you've heard a million times and you're like, I could never hear it again. But then you play on guitar, just as an example, and you're like, oh, I get the chording on that. That was a fun thing. I get why people enjoy playing it because sometimes unless you play the song,
It's a
you don't
funny
appreciate the
thing.
fun.
It's a funny thing with songs like that. They make you want to pick up a guitar and play them,
Yeah,
and like a Beatles song. It's
yeah,
like you just reach for a guitar and you go, oh, I just want, I need to figure out those chords, or and then you play it and you go, oh, I love the beauty of that. And and you learn something, and you also get the feeling. There's something of a secondhand feeling of what the songwriter must have felt when they actually came up with those chords and those words and wrote it, and you get a buzz out of it. And that's a lovely thing about playing. I mean, back 100 years ago, people used to do that. I mean, every house had a piano in it, and people would sit around, and there'd be one member of the family that could play a piano, and they would play
yeah.
the popular song at a time. And the only way you could get hold of that song was on the sheet music. Think about that. So now we've got everything on a plate. We've got, like you mentioned, YouTube. It's a phenomenal resource.
It's a crime to not use it the right way because I mean, because I learned how to fix a washing machine, but YouTube, but to me, to use it for guitar at my pace, and I've met other people and
It's
musicians. I can talk to
absolutely
musicians I
amazing.
love and hear
It's
their
amazing.
perspective.
Yeah.
How about as a musician when you play a song, and this is an example for you because everyone holds you to high esteem as a guitar player. But let's say the Beatles. Have you played a song even in the past X amount of years, and you go, God, I didn't realize. the way that's put together, even though it's a simple song, we all love the Beatles, whatever. But you're like, man, that's a. I didn't think we realize how good that part of the song is with the way the guitaring goes. Those notes don't make sense, but
Oh,
together,
yeah,
but like those are the musical discoveries that you don't always get by
yeah.
being a listener. That's something you discover as a
Yes,
musician.
that's very, very true. Yeah, when you actually start doing it, you get this beautiful reward from discovering those
Right. You fall in
events.
love with music over and over again. It's like a continuous, endless, a love affair.
And that becomes addictive to a person. And people say, well, they say to me, don't you ever get bored with being a musician or traveling and doing this? And it's because you've had that. You're feeding the addiction all the time. And
Yeah.
yeah, and once you feed the addiction, no one understands that, and you're okay, you're balanced. I'm doing my thing because that's what you're doing. You're feeding the beast all the time, and once you've experienced that, once, twice, 10 times, 200 times, it's like making records, picking up, find a new guitar riff, whatever, buying a new guitar, finding up some new piece of equipment. Yeah, it's kind of a nice addiction. Let's put it that way.
It's funny. Do you have a go-to riff lately that's fun? Like for me, I love when I grab a guitar, I'll do the riff from like the beginning of 38 Special. Hold on loosely. The way the fingers go, and then they go and they spread, and you kind of the fingering of that. Right now, it just seems like it's so much fun to sit down. Do you have a riff that you're like, I really just like playing this riff?
I have many riffs. I mean, I don't know. Mostly when I pick up a guitar, I'm playing fingerstyle, and I'm just like picking. So I'm using
Oh,
all hands.
I love your picking. I can watch you pick all day.
Yeah,
Oh,
but I mean, it's just I'm just I'm mostly playing acoustic guitar, to be honest with you.
yeah,
But there are certain chord patterns, and I'm usually a lot of minor stuff.
yeah.
That's I'm always I'm always going for the melancholy. But
Tugging the heartstrings.
maybe that's being British, and all those foggy days, like it is
That's
when
awesome.
you look outside right now. But yeah, I do like anything that's. But you can't stick with melancholy all the time. You've got to go out there and perform. But I do like
Right.
I love acoustic guitar, and I love
Yeah.
classical guitar. I love gypsy jazz
Oh my
music
God. Yeah.
a lot, big time. That's my big. Currently, I just listen to each and every day. I put some gypsy jazz on of some kind, and I just love the realness of the strings and the acoustic nature of it all. But it's just a whole world, man. I got guitars all around me.
Yeah.
I'm picking them up, and I'm working in my little room here, and
Whoa,
there's a
whoa, whoa! Go back.
whole
Look at
rack
that
of
resonator.
acoustics there. I can pick up one, and
That resonator you got there. Let me see that. Oh,
yeah,
look at that. Oh my goodness.
yeah, I got so many things that I can, and each
Oh,
one
it's
of them has a,
beautiful.
unique sound, and I'm picking them up, and I'm thinking, I'm working on songs at the moment, but it's just never ending. It never ends. It's a gift that never ends. It's great.
It's awesome. I have a couple questions for you. I don't want to keep you all day, but I just want so really one of the big things is as far as you have a new coffee table book coming out, and we're talking about this because the love of vinyl. So when I started the show, I wanted it to be the same experience I got when you open vinyl. It's the ceremony. You listen to a record. If you have to do the house headphones or you have good Bose speakers or something, you put the vinyl on and you can get some crackle on it, whatever. You don't have to be a purist about it. Sometimes it's better to have a dirty little bit of vinyl to kind of really feel the warmth of the room. You want to get a space between the songs and some decent speakers. And but you get the record player, you get the pictures in front of the vinyl. Usually, you see like all the photos of bands. You kind of imagine what it was like because there's no media at the time. That was it. This is my lead in for you. Ready? So you have something new coming out. Your coffee table book.
Yes. Well, I mean, the minute I see that, I've seen the roughs, and the minute I get it in my hands, it's like it's going to be a buzz, hell of a buzz. I
Oh,
mean, even for me, because to see everything collated and collected and put in one package like that, it's a huge buzz. I mean, it's a huge buzz. We had the Vintage Years box set come out a couple of years ago. To see your career put into a beautiful, fabulous, expensive package like that, and to be repackaged and put together with interviews from my colleagues back in the day, you know, my band members, and to see how they're thinking, how they view it.
Mhm.
Yeah, massive buzz, you know. So yeah, that's something akin to the buzz that you would get when a new vinyl LP would come out. I mean, I remember we'd all sit around waiting for the next Beatles album, and Abbey Road would come out or something, and you know, we'd all go out and buy it on the same day, and everyone would be on the phone or talking with each other. And what did you think? Do you think they cracked it, or you think that this is a lame duck, or whatever? And it was just grist to the mill. It would fuel your imagination for weeks, you know.
What was your first Beatles album? What was the first one you got? The first one you.
First, the one I probably the first one, well, Rubber Soul, you know.
Oh,
But
okay.
I actually didn't buy many albums when I was young. I didn't even have a record player until I was about, God, it must have been till I was about 20, to be honest with you. So I would go around friends' houses that had record players and had
Yeah.
records. And then I started buying records really when I'd say about 1967. And I started buying mostly folk albums, you know, people like Donovan, Bob Dylan, Joni Mitchell,
Yeah.
those kind of things. And then I gravitated on to rock and blues. And then I got, like everyone else, I got a huge collection, you know. But I remember, you know, I remember those days of getting new vinyl albums, and as you say, you know, opening the package, getting the gatefold out, and seeing who produced what, who played on what session musicians were on it. You know, getting to learn all this stuff. Producers, who was the hot producer of the day. Yeah, it was fantastic buzz. You know.
And that's what I loved. I mean, actually, I can tell you, my grandmother got me into my grandmother passed when I was young, but she got me into the Elvis and the Beatles. And I think I was gifted. My first album I ever got was Meet the Beatles. So to me,
Yeah,
yeah, it was my first one. You know,
yeah,
the four heads on it. I
yeah,
still have it. So to
yeah.
me, growing up on those two things and all the other album songs, the artists you
Well, I
talk about too,
think
because those were all my grandmother's record collection too. So I
that's
grew
wonderful.
up on all
I
that growing
mean,
up.
some of those grandmothers have a lot to be proud of. You know, I mean, I think the first, the album of the Beatles that really got to me was Revolver. I just thought it was a masterpiece, and then it carried on from there. You know, but I mean, there's a little bit of Beatles in every band, every British band. You know,
There is.
we have a great love for them. You know, even though, as Frank Zappa said, they were mercilessly packaged and promoted, but that was the music business at that time. You couldn't be not everyone could be a rebel, you know. So they went through their commercial phase, but they certainly. The interesting thing is that I actually always think of the Beatles as mostly Irish rather than English, because I think McCartney and Lennon, their Irish roots are strong, and
Yeah.
yeah, and
That's
so
it. That's an interesting spin on it. Yeah, that is pretty funny.
yeah, yeah, you know, think about it. There were, you know, from Irish English families living in Liverpool, absorbing all this American rock and roll music that was coming over with the merchant seamen and the servicemen.
And then they went and played over in Germany to really make it big. You know, that was a
Yes,
big thing.
it's a great
With
part.
and actually that was with that's when they had Pete. And I actually just
Yes.
talked to Pete the other day.
Did you
That,
really? Wow.
that was kind of cool being my first album, being a Beatles fan, having that
Wow.
as a kid,
That's
and then
cool.
talking to Pete. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, they really kind of did a lot. In those 10 years, they did so many different sounds too. Um, but you guys have done a lot of music, and you
I
so
tell
you
you
said earlier,
what,
you guys.
we've done an
Yes, sir.
awful lot with two guitars, bass, and drums. I mean, that is the amazing thing about this band. It's like it's tricky if you're just stuck in one format like blues or. But you know what we have done with two guitars, bass, and drums, very simple lineup.
Mhm.
We've constructed some pretty amazing songs and amazing uh, broad textures, you know, and I'm very proud of that actually. When I listen to these box sets and I pull out the discs and I look at what we've done in the broad range of music, it's that's what I'm actually very proud of. You know, that it's a
I think you should.
big
I
sweep.
mean, I think you should. I'm sorry if I step over we're on Zoom people, so there's always a little lag. But you have a strong collection, and people that watch my show know I won't shine you on for no reason. Like you have a solid collection to not like
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's just amazing what you can do with the guitar still today. It's
yeah, but
just,
just with some
and
bad
you know, it's
albums
still
though.
growing. The guitar, the
You know,
use of the guitar, it's phenomenal.
but some bands have just had some bad albums because they felt the pressure to go elsewhere.
Well,
You guys
yeah,
never caved that, or you felt the
well,
pressure
you
and
know,
you still did a good album.
let's put it this way. I mean, we were always under a lot of pressure from record labels and managers, and it was tough to keep your integrity because they were always wanting more, 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 and they would sometimes force us into the studio when we weren't ready. That was the thing I always admired about a band like Pink Floyd, was that they would go 8 years between producing an album because they waited till they were ready. And I mean, not, maybe that was a little extreme, but I think there's a lot to be said for that. You know, don't say anything unless you've got something to say.
Yeah.
But we were worked like dogs back in the day because I mean, obviously we were making money for people, and a lot of bands in the early set we were very young. You know, I'm not saying it was slave labor, but
No, but you guys were probably a lot more sober.
close to it.
California, I know, yeah, right. You guys are more California sober than probably Pink Floyd was at the time in a rush to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you said that you have some gems, maybe. So there's some other stuff still being dug out for fans that are listening. You
Yeah.
have more stuff coming out.
Well, I mean, the BBC material is a great case in point. There's recordings there that the BBC has not allowed them to be produced. So they're now licensing these songs and these recordings. But yeah, there's always like stuff coming up and coming to the surface. I mean, just not too long ago, our American fan club secretary found an album which I had forgotten about. We actually demoed the first album complete in its entirety and presented it to the record label. And they said, no, we think you can do better or different. And he found the original acetate. And we
literally like it would have been Wishbone One, and
yes,
you just scrapped the whole thing.
We scrapped
for
the whole
one
thing.
that we know of. Wishbone
Yeah,
One.
absolutely, yeah. And so that album, I gave it
What
to
a gift!
we put it out. It's called First Light, and so there's a couple of songs that didn't appear on the first album, and all the recordings are different. All the songs that, and it's like it just blew my mind. I'd completely forgotten that we'd done that. So you know, we have people out there scouring the internet, people of the internet. Uh, take heed. Yeah, and there are recordings out there that just. I think we've actually exhausted a lot of it by now because this has been a process that's been going on for 5 or 10 years now.
Yeah.
It still blows my mind what stuff and also people's memories and memorabilia and so forth that comes out. So yeah, it's a band that has been very well represented, you know, in the media now. I find.
The last two things. So, is there a chance for new music? And what's the future of touring?
I think there's a chance for new music. I don't think the economics are very good at the moment. So I think it's going to be something that we do as and when we really, really want to do it. But there is a chance. I mean, I'm still creative. The guys in the band are creative. We're creatively producing. Let's put it. But the mechanics of producing an album and the budgets are non-existent.
They suck. It's really bad if an artist has that drive in them. They just have to get the evil out of them.
I mean, yeah. I mean, we're putting our energy into touring at the moment. And for that reason, we have 85 plus tour dates on the books starting in September, which there's not many bands can do that in one. That's in a 6-month run. So touring is very much the name of the game at the moment.
Yeah.
But I think the touring is going to inspire other things because we'll be going to numerous different countries and we'll be garnering and gathering a whole bunch of new experiences. So who knows? You know. We just went through a pandemic. I mean, that was a very strange period. Some people got very creative in that period. Mm-hmm. I actually didn't. I did other things in that. I took advantage of the time. But I think now being very much back in the saddle and working on the road is going to produce some new experiences. So we'll see what that produces in terms of songs.
Okay, thank you. You always been a consummate recording and performer all the time. Some of these artists hadn't been, like the careers took dips and stuff. And what COVID did allow some of these bands to come back and come out with some of the best albums of their careers.
Yes, it did, actually.
Whereas you were in a different career span. You've been in for like the long run. You really had. I mean, I'm not getting close in your personal world. There's like I'm sure dips in everyone's lives. But in the big picture of bands that started out in your time period, you've kind of held a steady trajectory.
Yeah, we've always been consistent in terms of producing new material and also touring. But I think COVID gave me personally a great excuse.
A break.
yeah. Take my foot off the pedal. And it was actually very interesting. My mind went into completely different areas. and my body did too. And I think it was I mean, I actually had COVID twice, but it allowed me to replenish the batteries a lot, to be honest with
Good.
you.
Excellent. Thank you. Any dates near me?
Say again?
Any dates coming near me soon?
Where are you located?
I was at Hartford. I'm right near you. I'm
Oh,
probably closer. I could probably drive to your house and buy you a case of beer and then before you have a show.
I got tons of beer, but you're always welcome. I got to tell you, yeah, I'm sure we're playing up. We usually play. Oh God, we played Boston. We played Daryl's house in just across the border in New York, New Hampshire. Yeah, we're in the Northeast quite a bit. Yeah,
Okay.
Richfield Playhouse. We play. That's a
There's
good.
a place. That's a great place.
Yeah, lovely venue.
That's I've seen Zappa play there. It's awesome.
Really? Wow.
It's a great show there. So I want to thank you, man. This has been fantastic. I hopefully I'll see you again. We'll talk.
It was a pleasure talking to you, Sean. I think we had a different kind of interview. It was more of a conversation, and I enjoyed it. Thank you.
That's what it's all about. Thank you. I hope the fans get something out of it. That's not that normal
Yeah,
thing out there. I want people,
quite
delve into who
different.
you are. That you're a very talented person, and thank you for giving your time today. So thank you, and
Thank
you have a
you.
good day.
God
Take care.
bless. Take care.
Take care.
Cheers, man.
Take care, man.